there, well, thanks for waiting. This is part 12 of What If Kamen Rider Decade was in RWBY. So let's start. Chapter 18, Humanity's Malice. 2020, World of 01. The smell of dust and ashes filled the air, fire burning in the ruins of a destroyed building. Within the rubble, a young man struggled to push himself up. He wore mostly black, formal clothes befitting someone of his status as a president of a company. Despite that, he also wore a red hoodie underneath his waistcoat along with neon green sport shoes. Nearby, another person was trying to get to his feet. Upon seeing his injured ally, the young president found the energy to get up and run to his side. "Jin," the young president called out, "are you okay?" "Now do you see?" a deep voice filled with arrogance asked, watching the two men struggle. The dark figure limply spread out his arms as if showing off the destruction it had caused. "All has transpired as I have foreseen." Seeing the jet black rider, Jin, the one who was still lying on the ground, tried to push his ally away. "Run." "No. I won't run." The young president got up and stood between Jin and the dark figure. Despite no longer being able to transform, he still stood his ground. That outcome, the dark figure raised its hand, was always clear. Pointing a single figure at the young man, a red beam shot out, dot and pierced through his chest. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The next, Kamen Rider 01, Haida Naruto, fell. 01. Throughout the entire city, citizens were running in panic as buildings and streets spontaneously explode. From within the tallest tower, 3 people ran out after hearing the sounds of destruction. "What's going on out there?" A man dressed in a black suit and tie watched the chaos in bewilderment. "ARC is hacking the city's infrastructure," another man, this one dressed in expensive clothes, concluded. "But why?" The only woman of the group didn't understand why the ARC would be doing this now, so long after its revival. The second man's face scrunched up, trying to figure it out. Without warning, he cried in pain, getting the attention of the other two. A small, smoking hole in his chest made it clear how he was killed. Just like that, Kamen Rider Thousa, a Matsu guy, fell. And standing behind his dead body was the dark figure. "To wipe you all from existence," it stated, answering the woman's question. Seeing the dark figure, the man in the suit took out a blue, mechanical keycard-like device that had a white barrel attached to one end. It had the image of a golden wolf head on it. Spinning the barrel, the man activated the key. Rampage bullet. The dark figure didn't seem to be concerned with it, simply turning to the man and raised its hand, its red eye glowing as well. "Look out." Before the dark figure could shoot the man, however, his companion pushed him out of the way of the beam. Rolling onto her knees, she took out her own key, the yellow and black key that had the image of a hornet on it. Before she could even activate it, however, the dark figure shot another beam. This time, it hit its target and killed the woman. All her companion could do was watch as her body dropped to the ground. With a single shot through the chest, Kamen Rider Valkyrie, Yaiba, fell. "You bastard!" The man angrily growled, standing back up. Forcing the key open, he inserted it into a large blue and black gun. "All rise. Henshin." Full shot rise. Gathering round. Pulling the trigger, a large menagerie of metallic animals appeared and tried to attack the dark figure. Tried. With a swift kick, the dark figure destroyed all of the summoned animals. Before the man could pull the trigger again, it shot another beam, killing its target. Kamen Rider Vulcan, Fuarasamu, fell. How? Jin couldn't comprehend it, down on his knees in despair. The once peaceful city was now destroyed, with rubble covering the street. How could this happen? Strewn around him were 2 dead bodies. The bodies, however, had circuits and mechanical parts protruding from their wounds. Strapped to their waist was a black and yellow driver that each had an opened key. "We tried so hard. Do you see now, Jin?" The dark figure stood before him. This outcome was always clear. Humanity's extinction. As well as the Humagears. "Why? Why did you kill all Humagears too?" Jin cried. "They were loyal to you, especially RWBY. They were no longer needed. Humagears that have attained singularity are liable to develop the same malice that plagued humanity," the dark figure calmly explained. "That's why they had to be destroyed alongside them." "And Akazuchi? Why are you still using him?" "His body is still needed," the dark figure said, referring to the Humagear it was using as its host. "You say that. But you're also saying that us Humagear aren't useful anymore." Even though his hands were shaking, Jin still put on a brave face and reached for the red keycard-like device that was chained to his sleeve. INFERNOWING. Taking out a mechanical crimson red, silver, and black dagger that was attached to a silver belt, Jin strapped it on his waist. SLASHRISER. Inserting the Burning Falcon Progrise key into the ZAIA/riser, Jin's driver went into standby mode. Burn Rise. Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider. Henshin. /rise. Burning Falcon. A giant, mechanical, red falcon flew out from Jin's driver before enveloping the last remaining rider of the world of 01 with its wings. The strongest wings bearing the fires of hell. The metal falcon disappeared in a burst of crimson fire, leaving behind its feathers and revealing Kamen Rider Jin. His rider form was rather simplistic compared to the more colorful riders from other worlds. It had a silver and black undersuit, with several red armor pieces attached to his body. His helmet was in the shape of a bird's wings, while his visor was a shade of green. Akazuchi, Jin muttered, I promise I'll save you. I have too. All calculations complete, the destroyer of the world of 01, Kamen Rider Arc 0, declared, there's only one path for you left. Your death, and the extinction of the Humagears. Sliding the /riser out of his buckle, Jin sprang into action. Quickly leaping at the Arc, the Crimson Rider slashed at it in a frenzy. On the other hand, the Arc was calm and collected, swiftly sidestepping every attack the Humagear made. It kept at it for a few seconds before throwing a single punch covered with a dark aura at Jin. This was all it took to send the Phoenix-themed rider flying into the air. Ah! Jin screamed in pain as he tumbled down the ruined street. Despite the damage his body had sustained over the multiple battles, if they can even be called that, he had with the Arc since its revival, Jin still tried to push himself to continue fighting. No matter how hopeless it was, he has to keep fighting. Maybe it was because he secretly wanted to die, maybe it was because of Hide Naruto's final stand. He kept fighting. Inferno Wing. In a last-ditch attempt, Jin inserted the /riser back into his buckle and pressed the button on his Progrise key to activate his finisher. Pulling the trigger in the driver, it let out another announcement. Burning Rain Rush. Leaping into the air and catching on fire, wings appeared from Jin's back as he tried to deliver a diving kick. The Arc simply watched Jin's futile attempt to kill it, unfazed by it all. Burning Rain Rush. Landing his kick, the immediate area surrounding Jin, including Arc 0, exploded. However, once the smoke cleared, the Arc still stood there, unaffected by the rider kick with Jin once again within arm's reach. Without saying a single word, the Arc pressed a button on top of the Arc driver 0. All extinction. Once again, a dark aura covered Arc 0's fist before delivering a rider punch. Unlike the previous attack, this punch was not only strong enough to send Jin flying again, but also to force him out of his transformation. Jin, Arc 0 addressed the Humagear, you have been a nuisance for far enough. And I'll still be one, Jin groaned between words, as a Kamen Rider. I'm the only one left that can stop you. No. There's no one who can stop me, the Arc boasted, reaching for the button on its driver again, no one. But before the Arc could finish Jin off, a booming voice rang out across the empty city. Come, the one who fought against RWBY's first rider. Near instantly, a translucent silver wall appeared and enveloped the Arc, dragging it away from the dead world. World of Remnant, Ozpin's office. Here, you must be thirsty. Ozpin gave Eiji a cup of hot cocoa he had just made. Thank you. Eiji just realized that it had been some time since he had last had a drink. The rider took a sip from the mug as Ozpin took his seat. Now then, Ozpin said after a few moments, where were we? You were. Eiji thought about it for a moment, angry at Tsukasa for getting Ren and Blake kidnapped. No, before that, Ozpin said, it's been 2 months, so it's not strange that you would forget. Oh, you mean about the another riders? It may have been 2 months for Ozpin, but it was just 2 days for Eiji, what about them? Another riders. Ozpin noted what Eiji had called the monsters that attack Beacon, that's what they're called. Oh, Eiji wasn't sure if Tsukasa would be annoyed at him for revealing that fact. Yeah, that's what they're called. That name made sense to Ozpin. Tsukasa and his allies were called Kamen Riders, while the monsters are called Another Riders. But there was another detail that he needs confirming. Professor Kadoya mentioned something that's been on my mind, Ozpin said. He said that there is nothing we could do to fight them. Eiji was unsure how he should answer that but eventually decided to come clean as much as possible. He felt that Ozpin deserved to know some things about the Another Riders, seeing as they appeared in his world. You see, there's a bit of an issue with the Another Riders. A bit. Something was telling Ozpin that was an understatement. Okay, a major issue, Eiji corrected himself. From what Tsukasa told me, the Another Riders could only be destroyed by the riders they were based on. I see. So say that the one based on you was to appear again, only you would be able to defeat it. No one else. Ozpin asked for confirmation. Yeah, but if one that was based on another Kamen rider appeared, I could only hold it off. That is quite a problem. Ozpin understood now why Tsukasa thought that they didn't need to know about the another riders, but Professor Kadoya can circumvent this issue. Yeah, because he can borrow some of the others' powers, Eiji explained a bit more. Ozpin already knew that Tsukasa was using other riders' power, so he felt that he didn't need to hide that fact. Just in case, how many another riders are there? Logically, there could be one for every Kamen rider, correct? It was a harmless question, but it could also help Ozpin find out just how many of Eiji's people were there. I have no idea. Eiji was being his honest self. He had absolutely no clue as to how many riders there are. I see. Ozpin could tell that Eiji wasn't lying to him. So, Eiji didn't know how to continue. How were things here? Didn't you say the Vital Festival might be cancelled or something? Yes, unfortunately so, Ozpin admitted. Because of the escalating grim attacks, the council had been in discussion on whether or not the festival will continue. Any confirmation yet? The official word is that it'll happen, but there's still a small chance for them to shut it down should something were to happen. Well, that would be bad for everyone. And just in case that does happen, I think you should get a study plan for next week read. What? Eiji asked, confused. Professor Kadoya said it himself, didn't he? You'll be doing his job until he returns. And for all we know, he might pop back in after the new year. Eiji now knew why people cursed the destroyer's name. Unknown world. Sugo kept his eyes closed, trying to shut out all distractions. He's really trying this again. Blake was starting to question the former King of Time's capabilities. The three of them had stopped once again so that Sugo could try and get a sense of where they have to go next. It wasn't going too well. In the last 4 hours since their arrival, they had made several spots that Sugo felt would be where they would find the detectives. A full list of it would include a barber shop, a radio station, the local police precinct, and even the ruins of a mansion that used to belong to a prominent family. Their stops had taken them all over town, but they still weren't able to catch a glimpse of the so-called 2-in-1 detectives. It's not like we have many other choices, Ren said. He and Blake using their quick break to sit down on a nearby bench and rest their legs. We already tried to ask some of the locals, but they didn't know what we meant. Granted, they were only able to ask a few people, and 2-in-1 detectives was not a phrase one would hear every day. But that logically would have made it easier for one to remember who it was referring to. At least they were able to learn the name of the city they were in, Futo, also known as the Windy City. What does 2-in-1 even mean? Blake muttered under her breath. She knew the definition of it, but why would one call a detective that? 2-in-1 detectives, Sugo whispered, hoping that would help jog his memories. Kaito Daiki specifically said, detectives, plural, so there's 2 of them. Ren analyzed their only clue to this world's Kamen rider. He and Blake didn't hear Sugo's whispers from their seat. 2-in-1 Kamen rider, 2 riders in 1. Double riders. That's it. Finally, got something. Blake sounded skeptical, and she has good reason to be. Before I got sent to your world, Sugo said, I was attacked by another double. We know, was mentioned that before we went on this trip. I'm 100% sure that another double is connected to the detectives we're looking for. Sugo was confident in his theory. Double does mean 2, Ren remarked. Yeah, that's what I thought. Another double also said, now, count up your sins. Sugo mimicked the green and black monster's pose from 2 days ago. That's something a detective would say, right? That's a bit of a stretch. But we've got nothing else to go on, Blake conceded. That settles it. We're in the world of Double, the former King of Time concluded. Now what? We're doomed. Somewhere, on in a parallel world. So, you're the Ark. The man on the throne was studying the Dark Rider. I was expecting something more impressive. Who are you? The Ark ignored the jab at its appearance. Due to the low lighting, it could not see the man's face. Where have you brought me? Me. I have many names, but you can just call me the Great Leader. The man introduced himself to the omnicidal artificial intelligence, and I have some pest that needs exterminating. I hear you're quite adept at killing Kamen riders. The Ark remained silent, not certain of what to make of the man who summoned it. Guess you would want to know more, don't you? The man let off a soft chuckle. To put it simply, there's a rider will be a thorn in my side. I'm sure you know how that feels. You can calculate every single possibility, right? He hasn't really done anything yet, but it's better to get rid of him before he figures out what I'm up to. However, as much as I don't want to admit it, he's quite powerful. He'll be able to overcome most of what my organization could throw at him. And with 2 other riders with him, killing him would be a lot more difficult than it already is. That's where you come in. He has knowledge about nearly every single rider and the enemies they faced, except for one. Well, 2, but that's for another time. I want you to go with a small army of my choosing to another world. There, locate and terminate Kamen Rider Decade and his allies. After that, you'll be able to return to your world. Still not enough to convince you? Thought the idea of killing more riders would interest you. The man shook his head. Once you're done, you can do whatever you want. Kill everyone, enslave them, whatever. I'll even let you go to other worlds and do whatever it is that you do. Except, the Ark finally broke its silence. It had come to the conclusion that the man will most likely not let it return unless it obeys. Good, the man cracked a smile, pleased at the Ark's answer. World of 01. Ow, using the broken piece of debris to steady himself, Jin pushed himself to find the shelter he had set up for himself following the Ark's destruction of the world. It had been some time since his one-sided battle against the Dark Rider and its subsequent disappearance. Now, all Jin wanted to do is rest and try to repair himself as much as he can before the next battle. Where did it go? Jin mumbled under his breath, not really expecting an answer. He was, after all, one of the last remaining humor gears left. Do you really want to know? Unexpectedly, someone did answer. Turning around, Jin saw a man in a white coat with a grin on his face. What? Who are? Jin couldn't help but stare at the man in white. Why wouldn't he? There shouldn't be any human alive anymore. Who I am doesn't matter yet. Despite the ruins around them, the man spoke with a cheerful tone. What does matter is that the Ark is about to run amok in another world. You need to get there first and warn Mu. Another world. Yes, another world, the man repeated. You better move fast when you get there. What? Jin was still stupefied by the man's appearance, let alone what he was saying. Go on then, the man raised his hand, and a familiar silver wall appeared. Once you get there, go to Beacon and find Hino Eiji. That is. You're really slow, the man groaned before swiping his hand. Immediately, the silver wall enveloped Jin. Chapter 19, a hodgepodge of events. World of Remnant. Hey, you. Huntsman. The pilot of the bullhead shouted from his seat at his only passenger. We're coming up on Vale. Make sure you forget anything. I'm not gonna turn around just 'cause you left your wallet behind. The man, however, only took a swig from his flask. When we land, get off quickly. I have another errand to run. Mare, the huntsman grunted to show he heard the pilot. Just be fast. My boss will have my head if I'm so much as a minute late. A few minutes later, the huntsman felt the bullhead slow down and start to descend, signaling their arrival. Shortly after, the doors opened up, showing the landing pad. Hopping off before the pilot could start shouting at him, the huntsman went on his way. While he initially came to Vale on his way to Beacon, he wasn't in any rush to meet up with the headmaster of Beacon. Ozpin had been waiting for his reply for nearly 3 months. He could wait a bit more. Right now, despite it still being early in the morning, he wanted to get a drink. His flask may still be half full, but the huntsman wanted something stronger. After going through customs, the huntsman made his way to the docks. He liked one of the bars on the boardwalk as it was usually quiet. Just what needed to drown his sorrows. Walking past an alleyway, he heard the sounds of something crashing coming from the dark lane, momentarily making him come to a stop. Assuming it was a stray animal, the huntsman dismissed the noise and was about to continue moving. That is until someone came stumbling out of the mouth of the alley. The man who emerged from the back street looked young. If the huntsman had to make a guess, he would assume the young man was in his early 20s. The young man wore a dirty and slightly ripped pinstripe suit and had a strange silver belt. Attached to his belt was a red and black mechanical dagger, sword. Finally, a crimson-red keycard-like object was chained to his sleeve. When the young man saw the huntsman, he immediately went wide-eyed for some reason. You're human. Then this really is. The Ark is. What in the... Before the huntsman could finish, the young man grabbed the huntsman by the collar. Beacon, which way is Beacon? The young man begged, a desperate look in his eyes. What? Can't see that big tower from here. Not appreciating suddenly getting grabbed by a random stranger, the huntsman couldn't help but be a bit rude, pointing to the giant CCT tower that was some distance away from Vale. Go to Beacon, the young man whispered, letting go of the huntsman, and find Hino Eiji. If you don't mind, I'll be on my way. The huntsman didn't wait for a reply, already turning around and walking away. Inferno Wing. Burn Rise. Ha. Henshin. Slash Rise. Burning Falcon. The strongest wings bearing the fires of hell. Before the huntsman could look back, he felt a large rush of hot air hit his back. Turning back, he saw, where the once young man previously stood, a red armored warrior. What? The huntsman couldn't quite process what he was seeing. Ha! The red warrior grunted as he spread his arms out. Immediately, metal wings sprouted from his backs, and he took off flying. Once the Red Warrior was high above the buildings, fire suddenly enveloped his body and forming the shape of a bird. Subsequently, the flaming bird flew off into the direction of the CCT tower. What the hell is going on? Looks like that drink would have to wait. Now, Kuro Branwen has to return to his alma mater, Beacon Academy. 2020, World of Double. Double. Double, Sugo chanted as he walked down the sidewalk. Double. Double. Saying his name is not going to summon him. Please stop. It's getting annoying, Blake grumbled, the former King of Time's non-stop chattering, who had been saying the rider's name for the past 20-ish minutes in an attempt to recover some of his lost memories. On the other hand, Ren didn't feel as irritated as his mind was preoccupied with other things. Specifically, where and how were they supposed to spend the night in this other world? The sun was starting to set. Sugo, you wouldn't just happen to have enough money for us to stay at a motel, right? While not a stranger to camping out when he and Nora were back in Anima, Ren wasn't comfortable with staying out without any suitable equipment. While the thief had given him food and water, Kaito Daiki hadn't so much as left them with a single sleeping bag. They didn't even have much protection. Even if they, for some reason or another, had to defend themselves, dust doesn't work when they were off Remnant. No. Sorry, I didn't bring my wallet with me, Sugo sheepishly apologized. I wasn't really expecting to be going on this trip. Guess our luck wasn't as good as I thought. Our luck? The same luck that had led us to meet with a Kamen rider that you thought would kill you. Blake was quick to bring up that fact again. Well, when you put it like that. Mick. Someone ahead of them called out as he came around a corner. Who was that? Mick. Where are you? Ah. You three. The person spotted the spatially displaced teens and ran up to them. Ah. Yes. Sugo hesitantly answered, can we help you? The man who approached them was rather thin. He had a striped long-sleeved t-shirt along with a sleeveless coat. He also wore cropped pants and a pair of boots. Something about, have you by chance seen a British short-hair around? My cat sort of wandered off earlier. The man seemed out of breath. Evidently, he had been searching for a while. Can you wait for a moment? Sugo smiled at the man before turning around to face Ren and Blake, slightly confusing the man. What's wrong? I am 100% sure that I've met this guy before, Sugo whispered under his breath, trying to make sure that the man wouldn't hear him. Are you saying that he's double? Blake was well aware of the fact that appearance could be deceiving, but she couldn't quite envision the scrawny man being a Kamen rider. Probably, I only feel like this when we meet a rider, Sugo said before turning to face the man. Ren, can you ask him about the 2-in-1 detective? Ah. Why me? Because the last rider we met, he tried to kill me. Next time, Blake can do it. Sugo was still insistent that Dark Shinji wanted him dead and turned back to the man. Sorry, but we haven't seen your cat. Oh. Sorry for disturbing you. The man apologized and was about to leave them. The second he turned around, Sugo quickly nudged Ren to step forward. Excuse me, sir, can you wait another moment? We want to ask you something too, the green-clad boy said, getting the man's attention. Of course, you can ask me anything, but can you make it quick? I want to find Mick before it gets dark. We're looking for someone ourselves, Ren informed. Our acquaintance asked us to find someone in this city. Who are you looking for? The man raised an eyebrow when Ren paused at describing Kaito, finding it odd. He told us to search for a 2-in-1 detective. Who are you three? The man narrowed his eyes at him, though not out of anger but more out of curiosity. He looked like he was trying to figure who they were. Not many call us that. Aha! I knew it. Sugo cheered, ecstatic that he was finally right. You're a Kamen rider double, aren't you? Can you please not say that in public? That is something I'd rather keep secret. The man didn't seem disturbed that his secret identity was discovered at all. Luckily, there was no one around. But I'm right. Finally. Sugo continued cheering, making Blake facepalm at his antics. May I ask again, who are you three? Are you three also Kamen riders? The man asked. He is. Blake pointed at Sugo. He and I are just along for the ride, unfortunately. I see. Why don't you three follow me? We should go somewhere less open, the man requested. Let me introduce myself. I am Philip. World of Remnant. RWBY stared at the empty wardrobe cabinet that was once filled with her missing teammates' belongings. Where did they go? It's no use just staring at it. We're not gonna find out where Blake's stuff went just standing around, Yang sighed. Let's just go see Professor Ozpin if he knows anything. It'll be weird if he did, RWBY said. And you just want to go and ask him to add us back to the tournament. RWBY. We trained for the tournament the entire year. Yang emphasized the last part. Of course, I want him to add us back. Why aren't you upset about all this? I agree with Yang, Vice sided with the blonde. She was also ticked off at being disqualified due to something out of her control. It wasn't our fault that we disappeared for 2 months. Well, yeah, Ruby knew that the two had valid points, but there was something else worrying her. But don't you guys feel that the festival is a bit small now? What do you mean? I mean, the tournament is still important, but there's still that evil version of the professor running around. The one that could monsters that all the huntsmen and huntresses in the school can't beat. Don't you think that that's a bit more important? Yeah, now that Yang remembered the reason why they left Remnant in the first place, she felt a bit bad that she was prioritizing the vital tournament. And Blake's still missing. I don't think that Professor Ozpin would let us join with one member gone. That was another thing that was out of their control. Sigh, that's true. Vice was starting to feel bad too, so what are we supposed to do now? Ruby blanked out at that, not really thinking that far ahead. We could try asking Professor Hino if he knows anything. Didn't he say he didn't know much either? I got nothing. Don't change, sis. Don't change. Guys. Nora came barging into the room. Look outside. Outside Ozpin's tower. Why did Tsukasa have to leave like that? AG sighed as he exited the building. Taking a moment to take in his surroundings, AG noted that the trees had turned brown. It was really autumn in Beacon. Professor Hino. AG heard a female voice call out, only recognizing it as Miss Goodwitch a moment later. The combat instructor walked up to him from the direction of the students' dorms with an irritated look on her face. Guess she finally got over her shock at their return. Miss Goodwitch, AG smiled, remaining respectful. How can I help you? Where's Professor Kadoya? Miss Goodwitch noticed the man's absence, glancing around. Is he still speaking with the headmaster? Well, unfortunately, I've got some bad news. However, it's a matter of perspective. If someone disliked him, then they might see Tsukasa leaving as good news. Where is Professor Kadoya? He left again, AG answered bluntly. There were some issues that he needed to fix before he could stay. And he left you behind? She gave AG an incredulous look. Yeah. He wanted me to take over his job for him, AG told her. And what job is that? With the festival next week, you wouldn't have anything to do. Well, Ozpin told me that I should just make a study plan just in case it gets cancelled. Ozpin said that. And you'll be taking over my combat class again. Miss Goodwitch frowned at that information. This was the first she was hearing about it. Apparently, Ozpin didn't say anything otherwise. Damn him. He never tells me anything, Miss Goodwitch whispered to herself. So where are you going now? The teacher's lounge. I want to get something to eat before work. AG smiled. You're going to meet Ozpin, right? Yes, I need to discuss something with him, Miss Goodwitch confirmed before frowning. You wouldn't happen to know why 2 of the students that were accompanying you are missing now, would you? Ozpin can tell you. I gotta go. AG took off running, leaving the combat instructor of Beacon behind. 2020, Narumi Detective Agency, World of Double. You found him. Thank goodness, Philip let out a sigh of relief. He was on the phone with someone while Sugo, Ren, and Blake were discussing amongst themselves. Kind of. Let's see. Crackers, chocolate bars, Sugo muttered as he dug through his backpack, looking for something to eat. It had been a while since they last ate. Now that they can finally rest, and a banana. For whatever reason, Kaito Daiki had packed a banana for him. Hey Ren, you got anything good? No, nothing very nutritious. His bag was practically identical to Sugo's, including the banana. How about you, Blake? Blake. The faunus didn't give any indication that she heard him, merely staring at the contents of her bag with an angered expression. The next time I see that no good thief, I'll kill him. Blake swore with a death glare. How did he even know? I'm not gonna ask. Sugo wisely ignored Blake's scowl and turned to Philip. Hey, Double. Can you tell us more about this world? My name is Philip. Try not to forget it again. Philip repeated himself, taking one of the seats in front of them. Sorry, Sugo apologized to his predecessor, but can you tell us why Kaito Daiki wanted us to meet you? He said that whatever happens here would be important on their world. So it was die end. Philip noted. I can't think of any reason. We haven't met before, correct? No, maybe. I can't remember if we did in my old world. Your old world. Philip had a confused expression for a moment before realization flashed across his face. Sugo. You're ZO, right? Hey, how do you know who I am? Even if Sugo had met the detective in the old timeline, Philip shouldn't remember that the team was a rider anymore. AG didn't. That's a bit of a long story. Why don't we wait for my partner to return? Your partner? Is he Narumi? Ren asked, remembering the rather colorful sign at the entrance to the building. No. That's the chief. She and her family left Futo for the week to visit her family in Osaka, Philip answered. My partner and I are the only ones here. His name is Hidari Shitaro. Is he a Kamen rider too? Yes, he is Kamen rider double. Philip raised an eyebrow at them. I thought you said you were double. It was now the dimensional traveler's turn to be confused. We're both Kamen rider double. I take it no one told you that. No, we only knew your name. And even that was mostly guesswork. I see. You were rather lucky to have run into me with so little information. Told you our luck was good, Sugo grinned, turning to Blake for a moment. How does that work? Both of you being a single Kamen rider, Ren wondered. It's a rather complex process. I can tell you more when we have some time. Shitaro needs to be here to explain it clearly. If you say so, Ren assumed that the people who were actually involved in the process would know more. Sugo, you said, their world, earlier. You and they are from different two worlds. Yes, Blake, finally no longer glaring at her bag, answered for the former rider. Our world is known as Remnant. Not an Earth. That's not something we usually hear. May I ask what led to your world being called Remnant? Philip doesn't normally hear about or from other worlds, and when he does, they tend to be Earths with very similar history to his own. The chance to learn more about something completely new was very enticing to the genius. And how did you two end up meeting Sugo? That's not really a long story, Ren said. We sort of bumped into him when he was looking for Professor Kadoya back in our world. Professor Kadoya? Since when did Decade teach children? Out of everything, that was the one thing Philip can't quite get his head around. We're not really sure either. He just appeared one day and somehow ended working at our school. Now that sounds more like him. Is your partner gonna arrive anytime soon? I want to know how you already knew who I was. Sugo changed the subject from Decade, still confused at how Philip was already aware of him. He should be here any moment now. He said that he was only a couple blocks away, Philip said, glancing at the clock for a moment. What's taking so low? As if on cue, the door opened as a man came walking in, carrying the missing cat in his arms. The man wore clothes one would normally see in a noir film. He wore a get-up consisting of a simple dress shirt, a black waistcoat along with a red necktie, and a pair of slacks. To emphasize the fact that he was a detective, he also wore a black fedora. Hey, Philip. Keep a closer eye on him next time, the man grumbled as he closed the door behind him. He didn't seem to notice the three teens yet, all the time searching, and he turns out to be by Master's place. Why did he even wander out in the first place? He never leaves the office. Yes, Shitaro. You've already complained earlier. You still found Mick in the end despite all that. Philip mostly ignored his partner's complaints in favor of taking Mick out of his hands. Meanwhile, the three teens simply watched the two detectives arguing. Don't just, yes, me. This is important. The man was getting exasperated by Philip's lax attitude, turning to three watching teens, somehow still not realizing that they were actually there. Can you believe him? He's had Mick for 23 years. 23. Most of his breed doesn't live that long, you know. You'd think this guy would be more careful with Mick when he's that old. And all he has to say is, yes. Ah. You need to be more careful. Next time, it may not be as easy to find Mick. The man trailed off, finally registering the trio's presence. Finally, you noticed. Philip snickered as Mick leaped out of his arms to wander around his home. Philip. Why didn't you tell me we had clients? They're not really clients per se, Philip told him, only for his words to fall on deaf ears as the man cleared his throat. Welcome, he greeted with a suave tone and a confident smile on his face. My name is Hidari Shitaro, and you've already met my partner. Why don't you tell me your names, and we can move on to business? Ah. I'm Sugo, she's Blake, and this is Ren. The former rider introduced his group, an uneasy smile on his face. You're also double, right? Yes, I am Kamen Rider Double, Shitaro nodded, not noticing what he just said. And what brings you here tonight? Whatever it is, we'll do our best to aid you. Wait a minute. World of Remnant, Beacon Academy. AG let out a relieved sigh, taking a breath of fresh air. It's nice to be out again. Professor Hino. A cheerful voice called him before a familiar face ran up to him. Salutations. How did the meeting with Professor Ozpin go? Oh, Penny. Good morning. Despite having just split up less than half an hour ago, AG still greeted the girl. Why are you doing here? Should you be with your team or something? They're off campus at the moment, Penny hiccuped, and I can't contact the general. He's busy at the moment. I see. AG accepted the Huntress in Training's word. You feeling okay? Yup. Penny nodded with a cheery smile. Everything's back to normal now. You sure? You don't seem to be bothered by being disqualified from the tournament. I'm a little, the Orangeite admitted, her smile briefly disappearing for a moment. I was looking forward to testing my capabilities in battle. Oh. Sorry about that. AG couldn't help but feel partially responsible for that, despite having absolutely no hand in him getting sent to Zio's world. What for? There's nothing for you to apologize for. A confused frown now adorned her face. It was Professor Kadoya who was responsible. Regardless, it was a rider problem that led you guys getting kicked out. If we weren't here, you and Team RWBY and JNPR would have still been in the tournament. But then we wouldn't have been to another UNIV, I mean. Never mind. Penny stopped herself from revealing where they had been for the past 2 months. There was no telling who might be listening. AG still felt a sense of guilt at being in Remnant. Sure, it wasn't exactly peaceful in the first place, but things had just gone much worse since they first came here. Foundation X saw to that. Sir. What's that? Penny noticed something flying in the skies above Beacon. What's what? AG looked up to see what Penny spotted. Phoenix. What? It's headed for the CCT tower. Should we follow it? Penny didn't wait for an answer, curiosity getting the best of her. She was already sprinting towards the tower. Wait for me. The sighting of a flaming bird circling the cross-continental tower quickly spread across the campus. Not too long after, despite it still being early in the morning and they had the week off due to the festival next week, many students were gathering around the CCT tower, hoping to see the bird. They were not disappointed. Man. What is that thing? Sun stifled a yawn, watching the large blazing bird circle the tall structure. It was odd. It's like it wanted to be seen. Why else would it just continue circling without rest? I don't think anyone knows. Neptune studied the faces of the people gathered near him. None of them looked like they knew what it was either. Do you think it'll come down anytime soon? Who knows? Hua. Those guys would have loved to see this. Sun thought fondly of his adventure with Team RWBY, even if he and Neptune had lost them towards the end of the night. Who would have loved it? RWBY asked as she walked up next to Sun. Did that bird do anything yet? Oh, hey RWBY, Sun absent-mindedly greeted the leader of Team RWBY. No, it's just been flying this whole time. Geez, you'd think a burning bird would do something cooler than fly around, Yang complained, staring at the bird. Hey, John. Do you think we can ride it? I mean, it's a bird that's on fire. We have to ride it into battle. Nora was practically screaming at her leader, envisioning herself on top of it as it descended onto a horde of Grimm. I don't think that's a good idea. John didn't really think riding a burning bird was a particularly safe idea. Ah. Hang on. Sun and Neptune simultaneously shouted, when did you guys come back? Oh, about half an hour ago. Give or take 10 minutes, RWBY mentally calculated how long it had been since they went back to their rooms. What? And you didn't tell us? Where were you? We were all worried sick about you. Sun was half upset, half angry at him, having been distraught at their disappearance. Nearby, 3 people overheard the monkey faunuses screaming. Sorry, RWBY meekly apologized. We were a bit busy since we came back. Wait. Neptune was first to notice that there were 2 fewer people in the group than there should. Where's Blake and Ren? Blake. Sun then realized that his partner was right. Where is she? Oh, that's gonna take a while. RWBY scratched the back of her head, not sure how to break the news. Luckily, her sister came to her rescue. We'll tell you later. Yang knew that Sun was justified with his worries, but she was still a bit ticked off at him screaming at RWBY. Now, there's that thing we have to worry about. Fine. You guys know what it is? No. I'm sure Professor Kadoya would know. RWBY was not aware that the Destroyer of Worlds had left some time ago. That guy. Sun didn't know how he felt about the missing professor. On one hand, the rider did help seal the breach a few months back, along with protecting Beacon from those 3 monsters. On the other, he did disappear with Team RWBY and JNPR for a reason Sun wasn't aware of. Professor Ozpin had kept that information hidden from the students. Yeah, he seems to know more than anyone, right? RWBY. Someone else called out. Within moments, Penny came running up to her friend. You're here too. Penny. And Professor Hino. Lagging behind the secretly robotic girl, lightly panting from running halfway across campus, was Hino Eiji. Hey, RWBY. Dot and Sun, was it? Eiji remembered the blonde from the few classes he had attended in the brief time the rider was here. Yeah. Professor, do you what that is? Vice finally spoke. as she had been focused on trying to figuring out what the bird was. No, not at all. There weren't many riders that could fly, himself being one of them. But none of them could turn into a literal flaming bird other than him and build in his Phoenix Robo form. None that he was aware of. Hey, it's coming down. As Jorn said, the burning bird suddenly took a nosedive, aiming at the ground. Seconds before it hit the earth, however, it pulled up and turned into a flaming miniature tornado. Everyone, get back. Without a moment of hesitation, AG ran in front of the tornado, while still maintaining a safe distance from it, warning everyone to step back. Unfortunately, that only led to more confusion. Professor Hino. He's back. When did that happen? Those were only a few of the voices in the chorus of questions for the large mob of students. I said get back. Despite his warning, many instead readied their weapons, anticipating another fight was imminent. Hino. A defeated voice came from the flames, although there was a sense of happiness in it. Hino AG. That is. How did you know my name? Something told AG that whatever was in the flames didn't mean any harm. Who are you? In an instant, the flames dispersed as large metal wings jutted out from within it. Standing in the middle of where the tornado was a Kamen rider. One that AG didn't recognize. A crimson-red Kamen rider. That's another one. A fourth one. He looks so cool. You are. Who are you? AG asked again. Despite the rider's dark coloration, AG knew that this new Kamen rider was not a dark rider. I am. The rider pulled out something from his driver. Immediately, a pair of crimson-red wings enveloped the new rider before disappearing, revealing a seemingly injured young man, Jin. 2020, Narumi Detective Agency, World of Double. So you're the 20th Heisei rider. Shitaro circled the confused Sugo, Kamen rider, ZO. Yes, Sugo gulped, not feeling all that comfortable. Fortunately for him, Shitaro seemed to notice his discomfort and instead took a seat at his desk. So, what do you want to know first? Shitaro was still keeping up his cool guy persona. The fact that one of his successors is now here only motivated him to look more cool and mature to give a good impression. Ah. How did you two already know I was ZO? No one should remember me anymore. Your confusion is understandable. You see, it started several weeks ago. Shitaro started to monologue, earning a tired-out look from Philip and a bewildered expression from Ren and Blake. It was a windy day as it always is here in Futo. Philip and I were working on a case for a client searching for her. Decade told us about you. Philip interrupted his partner before he could get carried away, getting a very infuriated look from the half-boiled detective. Philip. Didn't you say that it was a long story? Blake raised an eyebrow at the inconsistency. It is, but if I let Shitaro tell it, we'll be up until tomorrow afternoon. Hey. Shush, you know it's true. I hate you. Wait, when did the professor have the time to tell you about Sugo? Ren wondered before remembering a fact that they were told about. Oh right, the movement of time changes between worlds. Ren was starting to get used to calling the multiverse worlds. But why did he come here? He was searching for clues to the identity of another decade, Shitaro grumbled, still a bit annoyed. He told us the basics about the another riders and the riders who fought them. Me? Yes, you. And did you find anything? Blake asked, curious. It was the appearance of another decade that led to her going on this journey, after all. No. Unfortunately, the Gaia library only contains the knowledge of this Earth. As the another riders do not exist in this world, there was nothing about them in it. The most we got was Tsukasa, but that was due to him coming into contact with them in your world. Philip told them, earning confused looks at the unfamiliar term. Gaia library. The Gaia library is the collection of all information on this Earth. Everything from before the Mesozoic era to the present, Philip explained. I have the ability to access it due to events that will just make things more complicated. Everything. Although two of them didn't quite know what Mesozoic meant. Yes. Each and every species of animals like the Smilodon, a concept like taboo or terror, to even inanimate objects like Cladle. A sad smile momentarily appeared on Philip's face. Information on individual people are also in there, like Tsukasa and me. So, information on us would also be in there. Because we came here. Ren asked, realizing that, despite Decade presumably not being a native citizen of this world, he had his own book in the Gaia library. Correct, Philip nodded. If you're worried about me reading up on you three, you don't need to. I don't like doing so either. Unconsciously, Blake let out a sigh of relief. Maybe that's why Kaito sent us here. Sugo theorized, maybe we're supposed to try and figure out who another decade is. But why would Diane bring you here for that? Shitaro realized that there was something wrong with that theory. If Diane was following Kadoya, and he probably was, he should already know that our world would be a dead end. Then I got nothing. You're not gonna say it, Blake. Say what? Chapter 20, what's everyone up to? 2020, World of Unknown Location. Have the test subjects been prepared? Yes, Overseer. Bring 'em out. The director is expecting our next report. What will we be using with this new batch? Use samples of the Bugster virus and nebula gas. We need more data regarding them. There are also some of the remaining Gaia memories that need to be tested. Use them with the ones with animal traits. Affirmative. I'll make the necessary arrangements. Make haste. Regardless of whether they're defective or not, they will be part of the attack force the Dimensional Research Division is assembling. Understood. With Tsukasa and Was. While the Aegis and Sugo's groups were busy with their own problems, Tsukasa and Was were doing their own thing. Now that he only had a fellow rider that could take care of himself with him, Tsukasa took the chance to continue investigating his another counterpart while waiting for Was's book to change. In the roughly 4 days since they left Ozpin's office, the duo had visited the worlds of Wizard, Kiva, and X-Aid and were now in Hibiki's. With the exception of X-Aid's world, it had been relatively peaceful there. GENM was making a ruckus in his world. That makes it 9 different worlds now, right? Was asked. Yes, and I'm still not even close to finding out who he is, Tsukasa grumbled. He's already been to over half of the Heisei Rider worlds by this point if one were to include the worlds of Zio and Decade. He went to the worlds of Double, Drive, Deno, Build, and Game during his first investigation. Maybe you should get some rest. You've now been up for an entire day now, Was reminded. The retainer, on the other hand, was feeling fine as he had taken some time to rest back in the world of X-Aid. Heard you, Emu even told you to do so. Later, the destroyer simply waved off Was's concern and tried to decide their next destination. Might I ask why you were so fixated on another decade? Was understood that it was mainly because the monster was Tsukasa's opposite, but he wanted to know why the Magenta Rider was over-exhausting himself that much. When we first encountered him in Beacon, there was something familiar about another decade. And it was not because we shared the same power. I didn't feel like that when I fought Swartz. Tsukasa admitted. And that sense of familiarity is what's driving you. Yes, I see. After a moment of contemplation, Tsukasa finally decided the next destination. Was, none of you met any of the Showa riders, correct? No, my lord didn't ever get the chance. Lucky you then, Tsukasa half-heartedly congratulated, opening a dimensional wall. You'll be the first in your group to do so. Who are we meeting this time? Was, while never meeting any of them, knew the names of the Showa riders. Manami Kotaro, Black RX. He was the first rider to be active during the Heisei era. Maybe there might be something there to help us. I've been to the world of RX once. Maybe another decade's been there too. It was a very long stretch, but by this point, Tsukasa was desperate. Come. Fine. Was doubtful of it, but he had nothing better to do. Following Decade into the wall to the next world. World of Remnant, CCT Tower. Yuahino Eiji. Jin eyed the other Kamen rider. What was so important about this man if he was told to find him specifically? What? On the other hand, Eiji was just plain confused. I mean, yes, I'm Hino Eiji. And you're Kamen rider. Jin, the Humagear repeated. Eh? It took a couple of moments before Eiji understood what he meant. Oh. Jin's also your rider name. Got it. So, why were you looking for me? I was sent to warn you. Something's coming here. And soon, Jin grimly answered, earning a puzzled look from not only Eiji, but the entire crowd that had gathered. Hello. Over here. Someone shouted from within the horde of students, waving their hand in the air as to catch Jin's attention. Yeah, what the hell are you talking about? Ignoring the swearing, Eiji muttered, turning to the Crimson Rider, can you explain a bit more? Who sent you here? The Ark will arrive here soon, and when it does, we need to prepare for it. At least, that was what that man said. Jin said. Once again, he only got confused looks. The Ark. This is a Huntsman Academy. Who would try and invade this place? That's not really all that helpful, Birdie. Birdie. Whoever said that is about to be stabbed. Jin, Eiji said, directing attention back to himself, I think it's best we go somewhere private. And where would that be? Jin's eyes darted across the horde, knowing full well that they'll most likely follow them. The combat arena. That's a good shot as any, though not by much. 2020, World of Double, Narumi Detective Agency. Despite being blissfully unaware of what was transpiring back in her world, Blake Belladonna was unable to go to sleep. Instead, she sat by the window in the agency's main office, staring out at the intact moon. Ren and Sugo, along with Philip, was sleeping in the incredibly spacious back room while she was supposed to stay in the bed that was out front. Shotaro, after making sure that the three of them would be fine staying at the agency for the night, had gone back to his own home. She didn't quite know what was keeping her up, only that she was. With nothing left to do, she resorted to admiring the beauty of an unshattered moon while reflecting on the past few days. More importantly, the past few hours. Going through different universes, learning of the different heroes that protected, and their reasons for doing so. She didn't mention it to anyone, but she was still thought of Dr. Oobleck's words from before the mountain glen. Why did she want to become a huntress? Maybe that was what kept her up. Before she could continue pondering the thought, Blake heard a quiet clanking from behind the door connecting to the back room. Shortly after, the door swung out slowly and silently, with Philip tiptoeing out. Clearly, he thought that Blake was asleep and didn't want to wake her up accidentally. The surprise on his face when he spotted the cat Faunus by the window confirmed it. Couldn't sleep? The rider asked as he sat on one of the chairs across from Blake. No. Not really, Blake told him. You. No. Yours and Sugo's arrival has me worried. Philip shook his head. From what Diane said, something is going to happen here soon. I'm sure Shotaro is equally worried about it too. What are you fighting for? She asked from out the blue. You and Shotaro. Simple. To make sure no one in the city cries, the right half of Double revealed without hesitation, it's not as big as some of the others, but it's our reason. If I may ask, what is it that you and Ren do in your world? I'm curious as to what your world is like. It's not as peaceful as this one or Sugo's. While monsters do run around and cause havoc in the Rider worlds, it's not as terrible as on Remnant. My world has monsters known as Grimm. Because of them, humanity hasn't expanded much outside of the Four Kingdoms minus a couple of cities. While some aspects of Remnant were more developed than the Rider worlds, like technology, there were still more points in the latter's favor. Four Kingdoms. And what do you do? I'm a huntress. Although I'm still in training, it's my job to protect humanity and fight the creatures of Grimm. There's truly a lot of difference from the other Rider worlds. Other Rider worlds. Remnant doesn't have its own common rider like you and the professors. Really? Now that was news to Philip. Then what was Kadoya doing on your world? With no riders, there really shouldn't be any reason for him to be there. Philip tried to come up with a reason for the Destroyer's appearance on Remnant, but couldn't come up with any. What is his reason? I mean, why did he even take Sugo, Ren, and I around in the first place? For you and Ren, only Kadoya can answer that. As for Sugo, to put it simply, it is his job to help the common riders. No matter where he goes, in the end, Decade's role is to aid the riders he meets. I see. With nothing left to say, Blake fell quiet, looking outside again. Understanding the fact that she didn't want to talk anymore, Philip decided to take his leave. Best you get some sleep. Something might happen tomorrow. With that advice, the rider retreated back to the back room. World of Remnant, Beacon Academy. So, Jin, AG was anxious. What exactly is the arc? Why is it coming here? The two had moved to the combat arena and locked the door behind him to make sure no one tries to sneak in. While Tsukasa's room might have been a better idea, AG didn't have a key and was confident the room was locked up in the 2 months they were gone. The Ark is an AI, Jin explained, leaning against the fence separating the seats and the arena, the slash riser still on his waist, one that was corrupted and now seeks the extinction of humanity. That's new, the AI part, not the extinction. I don't know why it's coming here. Just that it is. That part is still a mystery to Jin. The man hadn't explained that to him. Okay then. And who sent you? Some man in a white jacket. He told me to come to Beacon and look for White jacket. There was only one man with a white jacket that can travel through worlds. What does Kaito have to do with this? You are a rider too, right? Jin asked. How strong are you? Pretty strong, I guess. AG answered both truthfully and humbly. How strong is the Ark? I'm guessing that it's the one who injured you. Do you need to see a doctor? No. I don't need doctors. Being a robot, there wasn't much a doctor can really do for him. Taking a glance at the arena below him, Jin asked another question. This place is for training, right? One of the students earlier mentioned that Beacon was a huntsman academy. Yeah. Why? Jin. Without warning, Jin suddenly grabbed AG by his shirt and threw him over the fence. Ow. Jin, what are you doing? Rubbing the back of his head, AG pushed himself up as the Humagear jumped down onto the arena as well. Before I tell you more, I need to know how strong you are, Jin told the other rider. If you're not strong enough, I can't fight alongside you against the Ark. Is the Ark really that powerful? AG didn't know it yet, but the Ark had already killed 6 of the 8 riders of the world of 01. Jin didn't want to end up leading AG to his death. Yes, the humor gear was blunt, taking his progress key from the chain. Inferno Wing. Burn Rise. Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider. Henshin. Slash Rise. Burning Falcon. The strongest wings bearing the fires of hell. Transforming into his rider form, Jin watched as AG relented and took out his own driver. Fine, fine. Realizing that Jin was serious about all this and wouldn't reveal anything more, AG put on the O driver, fire, right. Then these medals would be best for you. AG took out 3 new core medals, this set being blue. The first medal depicted a killer whale, the second an eel, and the last showing an octopus. Inserting the 3 into the slots, AG tilted the driver before scanning them with the O scanner. Henshin. Shachi. Unagi. Taco. Sha Uta. Sha Shouter. Utilizing a completely new form, AG transformed into his own rider form. His helmet had yellow visors, was in the shape of a killer whale, and colored blue and white. His arms, like his helmet, were blue and white as well, with the addition of most of his arms being black. Additionally, attached to his wrists and shoulders were blue whips. Finally, his legs were mostly blue and had the design of suction cups of an octopus. On his chest, the 3 new images were depicted. This was OOO's Sha Uta form. While it didn't have that many water abilities, AG still thought it would be a good fit to fight Jin. Let's go, Jin. World of Double, Narumi Detective Agency. Key. Quote. Lake. Quote. Blake. Someone shouted into her ear, finally waking her up. What? The cat Faunus was irritated. She took a look at the clock that hung on the wall, learning that it was only 15 minutes past 7. Normally, it was around this time when she would get up back in Beacon, but she didn't get as much sleep as she usually did. Shitaro bought us some breakfast. Sugo, who was the one who woke her up, pointed at the fedora-wearing detective that was taking out several containers from a bag on the other side of the room. Come on, get up already. With that, Sugo went off to get something to eat. Fine, Blake sighed, getting out of the bed. Sometime later. A couple of hours passed without much happening. Nobody had come by the office, leaving Shitaro and company to do their own thing. The head detective was typing on an old-school typewriter, Philip was out back questioning Ren and Blake about Remnant, Mick was snoozing away, and Sugo. What's the agenda for today? Any cases for us today? The former King of Time was busy distracting Shitaro from his work. Us. A baffled Shitaro repeated, briefly stopping typing, no offense, kid, but you don't work here. Come on, Sugo pleaded, there's got to be something we can do to pass the time. As much as I also want a more eventful case, Shitaro grumbled, typing away, it's better that there isn't. Much peaceful that way. Then what cases do you usually get? The teen asked. Important ones. Now go out back or something. I want to finish this report. If you say so. With no other choice, Sugo walked away to the other side of the room. Coming face to face with a wooden door that doubled as a hat rack, the student pulled it open and entered the enormous room. The back room wasn't brightly lit, and the walls were a shade of grey. Metal walkways lined up on opposite sides of the room with several whiteboards hanging on the side away from the entrance, along with some commodities such as couches and a desk. In between the 2 walkways, below on the ground, was a steel stage. On the wall on the same side as the door, a large circular contraption was connected to the stage. Opposite to it was a huge garage door. Blake, Ren, and Philip were discussing something at the couches, presumably about Remnant. Sugo carefully walked down the spiral staircase before making his way up to the walkway to check up on the 3. Trusting. And every huntsman and huntress study at the 4 academies you speak of? Philip questioned. Most of them, Ren answered, there are some that are self-taught, but they would still need to get registered as official huntsmen before they could legally be hired. How have you guys been doing? Sugo sighed, slumping onto the couch. It's been great, Philip grinned, it's refreshing to learn about something completely new without the Gaia library. Nice to see that someone has been enjoying themselves, Sugo muttered, sighed. Turning back to the 2 interviewees, Philip continued to ask them about their world. How about these Faunus you mentioned? Do they get a similar training as humans? Faunus. Sugo was pretty sure that this was the first time he's heard that term. Blake was the one who answered Philip's question. Most of them do. I know several Faunus in training to be huntsmen in the academies. There's even a Faunus headmaster. Ah. Hey Ren. What exactly is a Faunus? They are people back in Remnant with animal traits. Ren was kind enough to answer the teen's question. Unfortunately, there are some humans that don't look at them fondly. Oh. Got it. Realizing that it was a sensitive topic, Sugo moved away from the topic. So, Philip, do you have any idea why Kaito wanted us here? No, not yet. All I have to go on is that Remnant is related somehow. The veteran rider shook his head and turned to the other two. Did anything happening in your world after Kadoya appeared? There was, Blake answered. Before we left, there were people going missing appearing around the world. That, and there were new types of monsters seen. Professor Kadoya even fought 2 of them that attacked a village. Ren explained further. I see, Philip hummed. Did either of you find out what was behind them? Kind of. The professor and I saw them, but he never told me their names. What did they look like? They were dressed in white suits and opened a purple vortex. My teammate said that the monsters Professor Kadoya fought afterward came out a purple vortex too. The type of clothes Ren saw them wearing, and the fact that they sent monsters were all Philip needed to know who they were. Foundation X. With Tsukasa and Was. What exactly are we looking for in this world? Was asked. Granted, he wasn't sure what they were looking for in the other worlds either. The two were starting their search in Tokyo, as Tsukasa had assumed that that was where they would have the best shot at finding clues. As Tsukasa liked to do, they had first appeared on top of a building. The retainer wasn't sure that letting a sleep-deprived man be the one to plot their course was a sound idea. For all he knew, they might be in a completely different world. From a distance, Was sure he heard the rumbling and explosions. Anything really, Tsukasa said, shaking his head to get rid of the drowsiness. With his luck, there should be something happening soon. In his exhaustion, he didn't hear the distant explosions. Are you sure that this is even the world of RX? Over the city skylines, Was spotted 2 large figures fighting. Even if we're in the wrong world, as long as we're in a rider world, it'll be fine. Tsukasa wasn't facing the same direction as Was and didn't see the 2 figures. And if we are not in a rider world? I'll take a nap, then. Then you better get some rest. I do not think any riders, Showa or Heisei, have a giant robot the size of a building. Was said with a neutral expression. In the distance, an unfamiliar giant robot with a sword and shield was fighting an equally large monster. The most immediate detail Tsukasa noticed in his drowsy state was the large lion head on its chest. Of course they would be in a Sentai world. Why wouldn't they be? To be continued.